Good morning to everyone. My name is Vishwa, Mechanical Engineering at Coimbatore Institute of Technology. I'm going to take seminar on the topics of electroplating, electroforming, and electroless plating. Okay, let's come to the surface engineering. The surface engineering is one of the most important means of engineering product differentiation in terms of quality, performance, and the life cycle cost. Okay, it has the two types, that is surface coatings and the surface modification. The surface coating is done to enhance the product life cycle cost and its durability, and it is resistance to other foreign particles. Okay, so in that surface coatings there are a lot more types are there, but we have to see about the three types only. So three methods. The one is electroplating, electroless plating, and electroforming. So electroplating and electroforming are having a bond with them is only one process, that is the electro deposition process. But in case of electroless plating, it is dealt with the auto catalytic process. It is different from electroplating and electroforming, but it has a similar differences, similar similarities as the in the two process. So okay, let's going to deal with the electroplating. Electro deposition process. So in this process, it is simply the deposit of metal into the conductive object. So what the metal we have to deposit on the conductive object is the process. Okay. So it is generally that both anode and cathode are immersed in electrolytic bath that is composed of a solution of salt and metal to be plated. Okay. So only the two methods are being shared with this, that is electroplating and electroforming methods. Okay, let's deal with electroplating. So electroplating, the word electro is represents the use of electricity. Okay, definitely it is using the electricity. Okay, so both the electrolytic current is passed through the solution called electrolyte. Okay, using the electrodes and the power supply. So the electrodes will be the cathode and anode, and it is get connected with the power supply. So when it is connected with the power supply, the metal atoms from the anode is get transferred to the cathode during the electrolytic bath. So uh, where anode is releases its ion, the cathode absorbs it. So in the cathode, the layer is surrounded to be the very thin layer. So the metals are being deposited. So it is the permanent part of the object becomes. So that is the process we are doing. Let's see the applications of electroplating. So it has different numerous applications. We seen about the five types. Okay, first the copper electroplating. So the manufacturing of electronic parts and the components, aerospace and the defense industries, it is one of the most uh, dominating uh, dominating field use of the electroplating. So what is the benefits? Its benefits are corrosion protection, high thickness build, and heat treatment star proof. The high thickness is to minimize the heat exchange rate between them. Okay, so that is the process of copper electroplating. Coming to nickel electroplating. The nickel electroplating has two types: sulfate and sulfamide. So sulfate is brighten the surface of the substrate. The substrate is the substance or the layer of the object. So the sulfate is used to brighten the surface, but sulfamide is used to increase the substrate strength and reduce the stress. So it doesn't brighten the surface but increase the strength and reduce the stress. Okay. It enhances the same, the corrosion protection, create a wear resistance, and increase the surface thickness. Okay, zinc electroplating. The zinc electroplating is majorly used for the silver finishing surface, the silvery gray finish, the excellent adhesion, and is resistant to hydrogen embrittlement. The embrittlement is makes the material brittle. Okay, in if oxygen in air is come in contact with iron, it get rusted due to its the water content or the moisture content present in the air. So it is resistant to the hydrogen embrittlement. It is also used in manufacturing of the washers, bowls, nuts, and you can also see that most of the washers bolts are in the silvery gray finish. That's the point. Palladium nickel plate, nickel electroplating. It is one of the cost-effective substitute for gold coating. Gold coating is also one of the best methods, but due to the price, it's impossible for us to use the gold plating. So it is efficient and cost effective, and it's most useful, that is the palladium nickel electroplating. It reduces stress on the deposit and makes palladium less susceptible cracking. So the cracking occurs when the surface is gets rupture, because when the rupture gets into the surface, it is easily to breakable. But it is prevented by plating with the palladium nickel electroplating, and it can also withstand high temperature. So in the electric components, so the silver electroplating is often used on the copper and brass connectors due to superior conductivity. Copper also has a conductivity, but silver has more superior conductivity than copper. So due to the cost of silver is higher than the cost of silver is higher, but we can also use on the copper to increase the superior conductivity. So that's the main reasons that we are using the electroplating to reduce the cost and the effective manner. Then the gold and palladium plating are used for the switchgear in the telecommunication industry. So the switchgear is not only thing. It is a composed of the electrical disconnect switches, and the fuses or circuit breakers are used to control in the telecommunication industries. Okay. Next, the advantages and disadvantages of electroplating. Advantages: it is used to coat the metal surface with desired metal coatings for decoration purposes. Okay, and it prevents the corrosion of surface of metals. The main purpose of electroplating is done to is protect the surface from the other foreign particles. So another, the coating of chromium on metal gives luster to object. The luster means it is a bright surface, bright color to the surface of the object. It prevents the tarnishing. So the tarnishing is like it's a less, it's a dimmy color. Sorry, okay, less brighter. Shiny surface is less. So it prevents the tarnishing for a long period of time. Okay, let's come to the disadvantages. The main disadvantages is that disposable of the waste products produced. So the electrolytic and electrodes, sorry, the electrolytic bath is one of the most important disposal, because it cannot be used in where others. Well, it can be recycled, but it is one of the disposable waste products only. So this process requires a multiple coating of the metal, which is time consuming. Sometimes the electroplating the thin coat is doesn't enough for the longer time, so it has to be coated multiple times to get increase the life cycle span. So the cost of setting up the apparatus also high, because of the cathode, what the cathode is to be done and what the anode electrode is to be done, and the electrolytic bath also taken into consider. Okay, let's we see about the electroforming process. It is the additive manufacturing process specialized for the production of high precision metal parts. Okay, let's see about the additive manufacturing. So the additive manufacturing is the transformation approach to the industrial engineering that enables the creation of light, stronger parts, and it's okay. So that's why in additive manufacturing, it is considered as one of the greatest process in the production of high precision metal parts. So it also followed the electrode deposition process that can be concluded in a series of steps, including it has seven steps. Let's see about them in little bit. Cleaning. The conductive metal substrate will be cleaned and decreased. So the metal is to be cleaned and decreased. Decreased means it is to be dried. Then the next method is the coating. The cleaned metal blank is then coated with light sensitive photoresist. The photoresist uh, is one of the liquid that is to be coated, exposing. The metal sheet then exposed to ultraviolet rays. After coating, it is kept dry and it's then exposed to ultraviolet UV light. So after in developing, The image is transferred to the UV exposure, then the substrate is then developed, rinsed, and dried. When the ultraviolet light is deposited on the surfaces, it is then converted in the substrate. A layer will be formed over what the metal to be impression, highly impression the product to be developed, rinse and dry. So, and then the deposition process. So after the substrate is being developed from the quite a thickness of layer, it is then dipped in the electrolytic path where the cathode and anode are present. So after entering into the path, it is then harvesting. So after transfer of ions taking place in the electroblock, uh, then the substrate is to be taken up. Sorry, the mantle is to be taken up, and it is to be break. The electroformed path can be harvested from the mantle once the material is plated in the desired thickness. So once we attain the desired thickness of the substrate is being achieved, then we can remove from the mantle. So okay, we can see that the photoresistive coating is being done. Then the UV light is to be passed. Then the growth of substrate you can see. Then the separation of electroformed over group product from metal substrate. You can see the thickness of the substrate is being much higher. Then we are dipped into the electrolytic bath where we can remove the mantle from the substrate. So the layer of deposited metal is removed from the mantle to form the autonomous part. That's the point I am saying that. So when the substrate is attached to the mantle, after removing from the electrolytic bath, it is then break it down. So the break is removed from the mantle to form the autonomous path. That's the desired path that we like to do in electroforming. So we will see about the advantages. So it has ultra precision processing. So ultra precision forcing, it is used easy to make parts with the complex shapes. Okay, the electroforming can even replicate the metal wires below the 0.5 microns. It is very sensitive that even metal wires below 0.5 microns are also get duplicate. So it is one of the most important process in the additive manufacturing techniques. So we'll see about the disadvantages. So non-uniform thickness distribution, sometimes the thickness varied, it also being get affected into this. So that also lead to the disadvantages and the high time of processing, because from the it takes high time uh, because of its complex procedures being followed over there. Okay, let's see about the electroforming process. You see, uh, it is being cleaned and dried. You can see the UV resist being applied. The UV ultraviolet light is being imprinted on the surface. It is after applying the ultraviolet light, sorry, ultraviolet light, it is being dipped in the electrolytic path. The transfer of ions takes place. This removed from the mandrel. You see that the high precision of 15 micrometer and 2 micrometer is being done through the electroforming process. Okay, let's see the next process, that is electroless plating. Okay, so the word before we see about the electroplating, that is the use of electricity. But in electroless plating, we doesn't use of the electricity or power supply. So, and the electroless plating or other ways called as auto catalytic plating or the conversion coating. So auto catalytic, the auto means it is being induced automatically, not with the external external persons. Uh, so in the electroless plating, it's a way of plating your part without using the external power source. So in without the power supply, we're going to do the process same as we dipped in the aqueous solution and add anti-oxidation of chemicals. So the antioxidation chemicals is one of the uh, antioxidation is used in the electroless plating, uh, using electroless plating for a deposition of the materials. Okay, so the result is plated compound, and that is highly resistant to friction and corrosion. Okay, compared with the electroplating, it is very cost efficient and it's effective method. Most of the industries are using the electroless plating only because it has without electricity the cost also being reduced and its complexity also very low. So it is very complex process than electroplating process. So in that we're going to see about the nickel electroless nickel plating. So uh, in that, and the aqueous solution is the nickel salt and the hyperphosphate solution serves a what for this base materials. Okay, so the base material act as a catalyst to the deposition of the nickel phosphate alloy into the product. And when we introduce the nickel bolt into this, it is get electroless nickel plated. Okay, so it is very easy process. It doesn't need a, it is very simple and it's elegant in its method. Okay, see what's the benefits. So uniform deposit thickness regardless of part geometry. We can get the uniform deposit thickness and reduced porosity. Reduced porosity means that tiny holes won't be present because of the electroless plating, and it's improved hardness. Compared with the electroplating, it has a high resistance to hotness and reduced hydrogen absorption. The hydrogen absorption will also be reduced while using the electroless nickel plating. Okay. Uh, when we need the thick layer of the metal is needed, then we cannot use the electroless plating because the electroless plating cannot be thick, can be coated high thick layer of coatings because without electricity it impossible. But with electricity, it is possible that highly the thick layer of metal is being coated only when using the electroplating process. Okay, so that's the end of my session. I'm signing off from this.